Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. You find everything about me. Scan the QR code, go to rycolin.com. I've got 2 school groups, one on podcasting and one on brain fitness. And if you're looking for virtual assistants, go to va.world. My guest is a powerful example of resilience and self-discovery. After earning double majors in finance and international business, she initially made her mark in the corporate world, but her path took an unexpected turn when a massive stroke altered her life forever. At a young age, I may add. Through sheer determination and a long, challenging recovery, she emerged stronger with a deeper sense of purpose. She challenged her transformative journey into her memoir, Breaking into the Light, a journey of self-discovery and transformation, sharing her journey and the lessons learned along the way. Almost a decade after the book's release, she discovered a groundbreaking nutritional methodology which played a pivotal role in her continued recovery and personal transformation. Today, she is a passionate coach committed to helping others navigate their own journey of recovery and transformation. She specializes in guiding individuals to reset their relationship with food, unlocking profound shifts in their overall life and experience. And I can say that we're in a business group together, so that's how we connected. And it's a pleasure to know her. She's from Spain, now living in the USA in New Jersey. Please welcome Maria Garcia.
Thank you for having me, Roy. I'm very excited.
No, I'm looking forward to it because, it's a very interesting, difficult story, but it's beautiful that, you've come through it. So I suppose we'll have to kind of take people through the journey of what exactly happened.
Of course. So when I was 25, I ended up at the hospital one day, and I thought I had food poisoning. They run a few tests, and somebody finally gets back to me after some hours and says, Miss, we think you're having a stroke. And I was like, all right, so much for food poisoning, but what's a stroke? I'd never heard the word before. I had no idea what it was. So within 24 hours, I was totally paralyzed from the nose down, which means I was also a mute. And I was in that state for something like 2 weeks before anybody realized that I was conscious and aware. Everybody thought I was in a vegetative coma. And that was the most, I want to say terrifying, but I think terrifying is not strong enough of a qualifier, right? That was such a, wow. I don't wish that on anybody.
Because obviously you were listening to everything going around and they weren't conscious that you were, which is strange for a hospital, but it doesn't surprise me. But it's, the fact, it's unbelievable that happened.
And then what's even worse is that organ donation people were speaking to my family in the room. And I'm listening to all this and I'm just like, but anyway, I was like that for 2 weeks, like I mentioned, before anybody noticed. Then it was actually a friend of mine who noticed I was tracking pictures she was showing me with my eyes. And she alerted doctors and she alerted my family. And the doctor said, oh no, that's involuntary eye movements. So, but of God, she also told my family because they thought to say, blink once for yes and twice for no if you're understanding. And so I did that, and that was my first communication with the outside world, which was what a relief.
And because I know that there's a long kind of journey for this, but I just want to kind of get into your headspace at that time, because 2 weeks in now, it just kind of, like the whole year blinks. But when you're lying and you can't move, that's like eternity. And I'm just wondering what was going on in your head, because obviously your mind was probably working perfectly, but you kind of couldn't even move.
Yeah, I was so in shock that I was almost numb. Besides being scared as hell, I was almost like, what is happening? I just couldn't compute what was going on. And it felt like you said, it felt like 2 years instead of 2 weeks.
And so you were 2 weeks then, and then I believe did you get some movement in your finger or something was the next stage of your progression?
Yeah, I began to move my right index finger maybe half a centimeter up. That was my first movement. And then everything progressed from there. I started moving my fingers, then my hand, but this is all over a period of time. And eventually I was able to move my right side fairly well. I still can talk. I eventually got breathing tube or a trach. Outside of feeding tube, the hospital was miserable, as you can imagine. I was staring at the ceiling for 43 long days, and I was not getting any therapy or any of that. But luckily, and while I'm so grateful for this and so touched by this, my family and my brother, they made shifts so somebody would be with me 24 hours a day in the hospital.
No, because I remember reading the thing as well, that the pain of when they were cleaning the tube was, so you might explain, because even just seeing the nurse was kind of giving you tremors, yeah.
Yeah. So that was an everyday thing, right? I'd see the nurse walk in, and I already got scared because I knew that I was about to be in a world of pain. She would come in, she would grasp at my tongue, and because at the time, I had a breathing tube that was in my mouth. That was before I got the trach. They took about a month to give me a trach, which is normally done quicker. They don't leave people on breathing tubes that long, usually. But for some reason, they did to me. And it was just, painful. It was painful. I remember coughing a lot. Very unpleasant.
And there was also the doctor was like pinching your leg or something like that. So the fact that you couldn't move, but you could feel it. I mean, that is fascinating, because they kind of come along and make statements or kind of think a certain way, or they're reading a certain book. And even and why I'm saying this, because you mentioned about the organ donor. Like, I know of somebody on my road that actually passed, and they said, oh, she's brain dead and let's get the organ donors and all that. And it turns out that that's all a lie as well. And that's scary when you hear things like that. So, I mean, I know that sometimes they're sticking pins into people. If you can't react, are people screaming inside? It's like they need to, I don't know, they need to reevaluate everything regarding the medical industry.
Oh yeah, I was definitely screaming in my head when I was getting pinched. Because it wasn't just a little pinch. It was more like, twisting my skin. I was like, ah! In my head I'm screaming, but I can't express that. And they're just not sympathetic to that. They're not. You're just a number. Basically, you're a specimen. It's very inhumane.
So you had the whole family taking shifts, which was fantastic, because sometimes people, they don't do that. So you were blessed that you had such a wonderful family that kind of, they took turns. So what was the next stage then that happened after that?
So then I went to a rehab hospital after 43 days, and I was like, yes, they're going to patch me right up, and I'll be like before any of this happened. Because I had no first stroke, so I had no idea, right? I get to the hospital, and my first day of therapy, the therapist hands me a hairbrush, and she says, Maria, comb your hair. And I thought, that's easy. I'll take it in my right hand, which I can move. Took the brush, brought it to about 2 inches from my head, and realized, oh my God, I can't even touch my head. And I started wailing because that's the moment that I realized the mountain that lay ahead of me.
And I just curious because, at 25, you hear of people maybe in their 40s, usually older, but very rarely that age. And did they know what actually causes? And
Well, they say the only risk factor was birth control. I know now that it was a level of malnourishment that I had before it happened, but the pill was contributing, unleashed this everything happening. But I think most people are walking around with a low level of malnourishment, not even realizing it nowadays.
I've heard of a few people having very serious issues with the pill. And I remember even when I was younger, there was someone I knew that they'd acne, and they got them to go on the pill to sort out acne. And you're like, yeah, and you hear people getting blood clots and everything because of the pill, and they're making it look like it's safe. And I think people should be aware of the risks of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and doctors don't tell you, well, this could happen, you have to read the insert. Well, I never read the insert.
I don't think anybody does. That's the thing. It's like, I remember I subscribed to Entrepreneur magazine. I used to be reading it for years, and there was an advert for Viagra. Never took it, and there was 2 pages of side effects, and I was like, one of them is death, and I was like, why would anyone take this when a side effect is death? And when that was developed, that was actually a side effect for something they were developing for something else, was the erections, and that's why they decided to create this drug. And it's like, nobody reads the side effects, and it's the first thing you should do.
Yeah. And it could be you. It could be anybody.
Yeah. So you started getting the therapy then, and what was the next stages that you went through?
So I started getting therapy. My family finally did not do the shifts now because this place was different. I was getting a lot of therapy 3 hours a day, and there were nurses that were very attentive. And so anyway, I finally went home after 2 months because my insurance ran out. So I went home. Yeah. I went home in a wheelchair, in diapers. My tubes are gone, luckily. But there had really nothing that I could do almost. And I still remember my family, they became drill sergeants, and they hated it, every second of it. My brother would come over daily. He would work out with me. I couldn't even really work out. I was just doing what I could, right? And he would do that. My mother, also, we had a recumbent bike, kind of like with a normal seat. And she thought I should ride. So I thought, okay, I'll go. I get on the bike, put my feet on the pedals. My feet, they slipped right off. I couldn't even hold my feet to the pedals. I was that weak. And she tied my feet to the pedals. My mom tied my feet to the pedals.
Because, the first phase was when you were kind of like paralyzed as such in the hospital, but now, after going through kind of their therapy, but still wearing diapers and everything, where was your headspace at this stage? Because that's still, for a very young woman, traumatic.
Yeah, I basically lost my mind because I was hyper independent before any of this happened. I had gone to live in Germany by myself for 2 years after college, and I was basically just traveling the world. And when this happened, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm going through a second childhood, but this time realizing what I lost, which is everything, really. I had to relearn speech. I had to relearn to swallow. I couldn't even swallow.
And I mean, I've heard of people with the insurance. It's unbelievable that they do that. I mean, I've heard of loads of cases like that. It's like, oh yeah, your money's out. They'll take your money as long as they feel it's right, and then okay, time up. And so you were in a wheelchair then, and how did you get out of the wheelchair? What was the next phase there?
Well, the second I got home, I realized my wheelchair doesn't fit through any of my doors at all. And that's when I graduated to using a walker, at least at home, because there was no way for me to get from one room to the other. And so as I could, I used the walker. Only at home, but. And then eventually I was body trained. So I went back to therapy as an outpatient. And I was doing that for a while, and I progressed from walker to 4-pound cane to regular cane, and eventually I was able to walk on my own. I wasn't very steady, but I was walking. And I decided, well, I guess I can join the gym. And that's what I did. And they had a yoga class, and I thought to myself, well, I can do yoga, probably, because they can modify it for me, and it's going to be nice and soft. What I didn't realize is what a powerful mental exercise that was, because the black cloud that had been over my head, looming for over a year, or for a couple of years, lifted. It finally lifted.
And did you do any kind of meditation or breath work or anything during any of these phases?
No, I do a lot more breathing now. And did I meditate back then? I don't recall. But there was definitely the yoga it changed everything, really.
And so after the kind of yoga, then you started getting, your mobility back. What was the next stage then for your improvement?
Yeah, so during all this time, I ended up looking up treatments and doing all kinds of treatments. They were sort of like the medical norm, because I thought therapy isn't doing all that much, right? It's very slow, and if I have to live another 50 years, I can't live like this. I was only 25. I needed quality of life. So my life became about researching treatments, doing treatments, and some of these were Feldenkrais method, chelation therapy, therapy in Germany for weeks or a month, over a month. I think it was 6 weeks. I did stem cell injections. So I was basically throwing noodles and hoping something would stick. And when people ask me, well, what is it that's helping you? I didn't really know, because I was doing so many things at once. But I figured everything is helping me. Even if it's just a little bit, I don't care. I'm making progress. And I even played with my diet. I went from macrobiotic to pescatarian to vegetarian, because, as we all know, vegetarianism is healthier. Or so we've been brainwashed to believe all our lives.
And your mindset then, because like some people, when they get hit with something like this, they just they don't try to improve it. They just feel sorry for them. But like for you to keep trying things like that, was that your mindset, or was there the family just keep supporting everybody around you, or was it just your determination to jump back up?
As much as I would love to say it was my determination, it absolutely was not. I gave up. I basically, at least in the very beginning and during the gym and doing yoga, I'd given up. And if it wasn't for my family, none of this would have been possible, because they kept hope alive when I had none left. And I was stuck in the why me stage for a long time. Now it's different. Now I want to do things. And after, I think, maybe 5 years, I did want to participate in my own recovery. But before that, It was tough.
You said, because I see that you kind of got into personal development then as well. I came across like Kevin Trudeau, who I've a few of his books. Was that the first one that you first person that was kind of, I suppose, motivational and as opposed to doing a physical therapy thing?
Yeah, that was the very first one. And the way I met him is I started volunteering at a radio station in New York. That was kind of like my move back into the world slowly. Because after something like 8 years, I plateaued. I stopped recovering. And when I got to year 10, I was like, that's it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I have to do something other than treatments and look up treatments. And I want to live, right? And so I began to volunteer at the radio station because I heard that station by accident one day on the alarm clock. And I was like, oh, wow. Are they actually saying that the World Trade Center was a conspiracy? And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh. And I was like, I need to go there and volunteer or soak some knowledge up. And I went there and they were like, yeah, sure, you can volunteer. And I thought, yeah, this is great. And so they had a fun drive. And one of the items was Kevin Trudeau's Your Wishes, Your Command. And I thought, that sounds really good. I'd never heard anything like that we create a reality. And so I was intrigued. And I thought, yes, I could listen to this. And I got it. And I repeated it. I listened to it over and over. It was a set of CDs. And I just played them tens of times, if not hundreds. And that was how it all started, with personal development. And I got into it like, I started going to courses, buying more books, and that really was a big shift in my mentality.
And I don't know how many years, but he got jail because he had a book on weight loss, and they just came after him. And he's out now, and somebody reached out to me recently about having him on one of my shows. But like, it just shows that when somebody's doing things that are helping people, they just try to take them down. And I've seen that with a load, like the so-called FDA. I mean, they like, there's people that work with the FDA starts working with Pfizer's and different things like that. But I mean, he had a multi-level marketing thing as well. So I got a load of CDs, and some of the information that he shares is incredible. So I'm not sure the one that you were listening to, but I know that, like, he has gold. I reckon a lot of the stuff could have been stuff that he had created before and just re-recorded or something like that, because I listened to some of his CDs a load of times as well, and I could rarely do that. Like, usually you wouldn't listen to something more than once, but I can understand how you could listen to his stuff numerous times.
Yeah, and I like that because also I feel like every time I listen, I get something a little different. Oh, I didn't hear that the first time. Or I'm different and I'm just hearing things differently. I think so.
No, definitely. I remember that at one stage I'd read a book. I remember it was it's How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it was the one book that I read and I marked it so many times. And then I was thinking, I'll save myself time by just going back and looking at the important things. And then I realized later in life, because there was stuff I reread, and I was like, I read that and I don't remember that, because we're constantly evolving, and we're like, the same with his CDs. I remember that there's times you go, did I hear that before? Because you're just up leveling the whole time. So then I've realized, don't ever do that with a book, because you could think something's not important. It could be the most important thing in the book, and I wouldn't have, be at that level at the time.
Yep, repetition is the mother of all learning, they say.
Yeah. So there was, because there's others like Harvey Eck, Robert Kiyosaki. So
yeah,
you just constantly then worked on the mind and worked on all these personal development people. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, then I went from doing therapy all the time to doing personal development all the time.
Which I think was good for you because, like, that was 10 years of kind of, because I mean, I've had times where, back injury or different things. It's like, it's not a nice place to be. And when you're doing something for you, it's a lovely place to be because you feel refreshed. So I think it was a great thing that you actually transformed from one side to the other because you obviously needed it badly.
And I agree with that. The one thing I always say is that I do not wish this experience on anybody. But I also would not take it back. Because I did learn a lot about me, and it changed the course of my life, the whole trajectory. And I feel like I'm in a much better place now.
So after kind of doing the Robert Kiyosaki and Kevin Trudeau, what was the next kind of phase then in your life?
So then I found an ad for a nutrition program, and this was 15 years after the stroke. And I was interested, but only because I thought, you know what, I'm going to learn something new about a topic I already like. So I went ahead and enrolled, and I was hearing stuff I had never heard before. When I began the course, I was newly vegetarian, because I thought of being healthier. And I'm hearing all these different things that I've never heard before. Well, I was loving it, and within 6 months, I'd recovered another 20%, 15 years after a stroke, and I finally got my life back. What I had spent over a decade searching for. And I got it back just through changing my diet. And within 6 months. And I was so happy. But at the same time, I was frustrated as hell because I thought, wow, did I have to suffer for 15 years? Did I have to lose my whole youth?
And
If I knew this.
was that Eric Edmeades or was it somebody else that did? Yeah.
Yep. It's Eric Edmeades.
Yeah, because it's the way. Actually, years ago, I went to an event and it was What's Your Quest, and there was two speakers there. There was Vishen Lakiani and him that were just like incredible speakers, and I kind of that inspired me to overcome my fear of speaking and to get speaking. But I actually had him on my show. I've had him on twice. One as speaking and one the awakening, talking about nutrition. But yeah, incredible. So I can understand. You found the right guy to get into this.
Yeah, and he is a serial entrepreneur. That's one of his companies is nutrition, and one is on speaking. And I've actually done programs in both companies. And wow, excellent.
So I suppose let's get into it, because then from that, then you kind of created a career on nutrition to kind of educate and help other people so they don't have to go through the 15 years of pain that you had to do.
Yeah, so my goal when I initially signed up to become a coach or to get certified, I didn't even really want to coach people. I was just so shocked that this sorcery, because at the time I thought it was magic, that this sorcery was happening, that I needed to see or understand what was going on. And during the certification, we had to have a pilot class. And it was during the pilot class that I saw such miracles. I thought what I lived was a miracle, but everybody's having miracles too. CPAP machines no longer used, people releasing or losing over 40 pounds of weight in 3 months. Multiple people. And just all these things like medications stopped. And people averting operations. I even had a client who stopped using reading glasses. I was like, what? I could not comprehend. And now I know that, yes, nutrition is the foundation of your whole life. If you get that piece solid, everything else can just layer on top. But if your nutrition is not good, you're basically building on a house of cards, because in an instant, you're like wiped.
And I suppose it must be so frustrating as well, now that you have the knowledge and know how much damage it does, but to see how it's been infiltrated. You know, you've the likes of Nestle, Kraft, Procter and Gamble, all these big corporations that their main objective is profit, and they're putting in complete toxins. I mean, I've seen loads of videos on what they do, and most people, they don't even realize it. I mean, I try to get as much as I can from a farmer, but even times I'll go into a supermarket and it says, you know, it's like organic and everything, and it's not, because I kind of realize, hey, this isn't right. I'll throw it outside, and 6 months later, it's still there. And it's like, organic doesn't go like that. If there's something from the farmer that, just say I don't get around to it, say carrots, if I don't eat, I throw it, they're disintegrating, they're breaking down, or something's eating them. Like I do the ant test, I throw food outside. Like I get apples as well sometimes from, they're like apples I had when I was a youth. Whereas I get apples in the supermarket, even if it's this organic, and they're not. They're all toxic. So it's like, how do people navigate that? Because like how I realized nutrition was so good as The Wheel of Fortune. It's a book that it was studying the people in the Hunza, in the Himalayas. They were all kind of living to over 100. And it was all down to nutrition. It was all down to food. And they started giving the rats the same food, because a rat of 2 years is equivalent to a human of 50. And everything that they were giving them, they had no reproductive problems, no eczema, no nothing. And then when they started giving them poor man's food, they started getting all these diseases and cancers and tumours. And apparently they gave them the food of the UK, and they became cannibalistic. And you're like, so when I saw that, every time I see something, that's what I think about. Because sometimes, like, say, aspartame and different things, they're saying, oh yeah, it causes cancers in rats, but it's okay for us. And I'm like, no, it's not okay for us. It's like, if they're able to test these things and they cause problems with rodents, they're going to cause problems with us. But people just think.
Yeah, and part of the problem is that we're so bombarded with marketing. And then on top of it, people are they lost touch with nature. And so nobody knows, or no other species has a problem knowing what to eat. It's very, they all know what they want to eat. But humans, we're so smart that we create food instead of just eating what's available from nature. And we don't know what we're doing. Oftentimes it's Franken food. Like you mentioned, I have an apple that's been sitting on my counter for over 2 months. I'm just doing an experiment with it, right? I'm like, I'm not eating this.
It's like, what is it doing to our insides? And like, people joke about it. They show, say, a McDonald's that's 3 years old and it looks like a McDonald's. But people still, they look at it, they see this, and they still go away. So, like, you're in the States, and I know the States, like, they don't look after the people. Like, Europe is a bit protected. But I mean, I see the supermarkets even in Poland, it's all junk, it's all processed food and everything. How do people try to navigate that when 95% of the shelves are full of toxins? And not everyone has access to a farmer. That's why it kind of is the worst part of it.
Yeah, so the best thing would be know a farmer. But if that's not possible, what I do is, whenever I go to the supermarket, I just shop the perimeters. Just the outside. I don't even go in the middle, because that's where all the landlines are. Just get meat, fish, veggies, and now there's a new appeal coating on fruit. That's Bill Gates' company that is manufacturing this, and so I try not to go near this stuff, right? And you do the best you can. So you do the best you can. Guess what else can you do?
And because I haven't kind of done the well fit, so I have seen people and pictures and like the fantastic results they're getting, but are they kind of looking at kind of things like sugar and other stuff that people, because obviously the food pyramid has been inverted. Everything is what they tell you is good for you is not. It's the opposite.
Yep. Yeah, so that's one of the things that we address is sugars. But the interesting thing is that I thought before I did the program on nutrition, oh, I'm uber healthy. Before the stroke, anyway. I'm uber healthy. I'm a runner. I follow the food pyramid. I barely had any sugar. But I've seen a whole crap load of carbs, which turn to sugar in your body, right?
I think it's a case of you have to pay attention, because when you realize, because I've noticed that if I go to a restaurant I know straight away which places are giving good food and which aren't, because I think it's because I eat as much organic as possible. It reacts with me very fast. Whereas people that are eating crappy food all their life, they have no reaction. They just think it's normal.
Yeah.
So you just have to listen to your body. When you see this something up here, you go, all right, what did I change? Oh, I went to this place. And that's why.
Yeah, so I think you made a great statement. And listen to your body is the way to go. And with that said, people that are not doing that, or their signals aren't very strong at all. So listen to your body when your body is all whacked out. It's probably not a great thing because your body can say, I think you should go eat some Doritos.
But like even people, like, because in the Awakening, I cover a lot of stuff, but even the Pringles, people think they're potatoes that are just cut a certain way and they just look nice. And it's, you know what I do with my child? Like my child at one stage, my youngest child, he was into hot dogs and I was like, And same with chicken nuggets, not McDonald's, but just chicken nuggets. It was like, cause, some other people feed, sometimes you kind of have to navigate these things. What I used to do is go in and show them the video. I go, look at this. And you just see the gunk that they're mashing. Exactly. And that's the face is the way my son is. And then he doesn't want it no more. Instead of saying, don't eat that, it's bad for you. I think sometimes just look at the video or even look at the animal. Sometimes I eat meat, but I try to eat a free range if you can. I know that's not possible either. But like sometimes they're just like the cows are just going around in a concrete floor. Yeah. And they're injected with all the different things. And if they're injected with all this stuff, that's going into you as well. So you have to try to get, like I get chicken that's organic and without antibiotics and stuff like that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, because I know there's even trickery with that. Like I've heard that the chickens in a warehouse, they open the door. This is in some places. And they have 10 minutes. And if they go out, that's up to them. And that's cast as organic. And you're going, huh?
And that's cast as pasture raised, not just organic. Pasture raised, which is the highest quality. Yeah. Yeah, it's a landmine. Everything's a landmine. But I will say this. As far as cows and animals, eating ruminant animals, such as cows or sheep or bison, is 1 degree better or a couple of degrees better than eating pork and chicken, because pork and chicken, they're monogastric. They're like humans. Their digestive system is similar to ours. Cows, on the other hand, they have 4 stomachs, and they can actually process glyphosate in a way that it's not as harmful to us, or it's not harmful. So they're basically creating magic in their insides. So when you eat a ruminant animal, it's not going to affect you as much as a pork or a chicken or something that's monogastric. If they're eating a pork diet, that can trickle to you. But if it's other ruminants, it's not as pronounced.
So with clients that have kind of gone through the change in nutrition, whether it's through yourself or through the team, Eric, because I presume you're in a group and you see other people, what kind of things have you seen people overcome? Because sometimes people, they hear, oh, there's no cure for that. and this cures for everything. And it's just like, because people have been conditioned and brainwashed. They just go into the doctor, they trust the white coat instead of kind of doing what you did and just keep trying and check different things. What things have you seen that kind of shocked you? That, like you mentioned, the eyesight. I mean, I know that, so most people think, no, you can't cure your eyesight, but that was one that's good. But what other stuff have you seen?
I've seen so many things. I've seen type 2 diabetes reversed hundreds of times. And the biggest thing that I saw that shocked me the most was at a client that couldn't walk. He was on crutches. He was scheduled for a sciatica operation. He was in so much pain. Within working together for, I think, something like 7 weeks, he had no pain. He came on a call once. It was a Zoom call. He was running in place. He's like, look, Maria. And I'm like, oh my God. His sciatica released and he canceled his operation. I could not believe what I was seeing because I thought to myself, this was my limited training at the time. I thought, what does sciatica have to do with food? It's got everything to do with food. Now I know that. But back then I was like, not comprehending.
Yeah, I was in my early 20s and I had sciatica. I tried everything. And in the end, I got an epidural, which was strange because, you're awake when they give it to you. And I remember waking up, and what they do is they put you to sleep then and they manipulate you. And I remember like trying to get up and I was paralyzed from the chest down and I was so frightening. And I had pains going down my other leg. In the end, I got the operation because I believed their lies, thinking I'd be okay, and I wasn't. And it was a book, Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Cern. I think it's stress-related as well. But stress comes from eating the wrong food as well. So there's a combination of things there. But most doctors say, there's no... I've come across so many people, and I didn't know about the nutrition side of things. I always thought it was kind of stress-related. I recommended that book to loads of people because some people get it down the arm as well. It's like a trap from their necks, and everybody's cured from it. And it's like, they're just, everything is about the money, let's get them chopped up.
Yep. Yeah. And so when you're eating the right foods or the foods that nourish your body, you can handle stress so much better. So even if you're stressed in the world, maybe your job is stressful, you can handle that much differently. Just by changing what you eat.
So I'm just curious because every time you watch something, they tell you margarine is safe in and it's butter. I mean, butter's obviously, but regarding eating, because sometimes they'll say eat a lot of meals, smaller meals during the day, or then just eat one meal. And there's some meats, there's the keto, there's hundreds of different things out there. So people then, they just get bamboozled and they try one thing and then they think that's not working. They try the next. From what you're doing, because I know that Eric and, what he's created, he's getting very good results. And I have seen pictures of people I know that lost a load of weight and everything. What way is it? Is it kind of smaller meals, or what's the kind of way that you recommend?
Yeah, so I want to say that about people saying one meal, 50 meals, whatever. This is done purposely to create cognitive dissonance, so people end up just trying different things, and there's a market for everything. They purposely create confusion, and I think that also happens with everything else. It's like information overload, right? And they do that on purpose. But I think it's good to give your stomach a break and to have less meals in one day. So I do usually 2 meals. And I'm not forcing myself to do 2 meals. I'm not hungry. But that's through all the things I learned and the way I nourish my body, where that's possible. Some people eat once a day, and I do that sometimes. Not on purpose, I just can't eat. But less meals is better. You're giving your stomach a chance to recuperate.
I'm the same. I eat twice when I do that. The breakfast between 10 and 12, and then I'll eat around 6 or 7 is when I have, and that's it then. So my body, yeah. And I've heard of, I don't know, did they touch this, but I've also heard of the blood type, that the foods you should be eating are related to your blood type. Do they look at that, or is that more baloney as well?
I'm laughing because it's very clever marketing to say, hey, I have the Maria diet. You should follow the Maria diet. Everybody think, oh, a diet's special for me. I'll just put it this way. Every species has a specific diet. So elephants in India are kind of eating the same thing as elephants in Africa, right? So it doesn't matter. There's certain nutritional requirements that must be met, regardless of your blood type. And I don't think thousands of years ago, people even knew their blood types. They didn't even know there was different blood types. So I think it's worked.
So the book that you've written, I know it was a few years ago, but I love your writing style, because there's sometimes, that somebody's kind of used a ghostwriter or something like that, but you can see that it's from the art and it's kind of taking you through the journey. So you might let people know what's the name of it and kind of what you're covering in it.
So basically, I wrote the book for me. I didn't even write it wanting to publish it, but I wrote it something as cathartic, and it was totally cathartic. And I detailed kind of my journey and the lessons I learned. And I wrote this all before I even changed my nutrition. So I wrote this pretty early on. Probably something like 10 years after the stroke, or a little less. And it was just a way for me to get it out of myself. And then what was interesting is, as people were reading it, they would get back to me and say, I really saw myself in that. And I was like, that's incredible, because my journey is very unique. I don't think it's very common, but people really resonated with what I was writing. But anyway, about the book, it's currently, I'm going to work on the second edition. The first is not available anywhere online. It's only available through me. So if anybody wants it, I'm happy to mail them one.
And when you go through this, then you got into the speaking, and you might just kind of because when you went through your whole journey, obviously I'd say speaking on stage would have been the furthest thing from your mind, but how did that kind of transform?
So eventually, when I got over myself, which took a long time, which is normal, I also think, I thought, wow, this is the response that I'm getting from the book. Maybe I should, or maybe it would be beneficial for others for me to share what I've gone through, right? And I went to a couple of speaking courses with Eric, who I was introduced to through nutrition, and it was such an amazing course. Basically, I just say this, and this is going to open a whole other conversation, but I'll just say this. I was not myself. I was wearing a mask throughout my whole life, basically. Wearing masks of what I thought others wanted from me. And in this course, it was a lot of the shedding of the masks, or the beginning of the shedding of the masks. And I had such a release. And things began to definitely change for me in that regard. And I feel like now I can be more me. I can be more authentic.
Just from reading the book, the things that were happening in Germany, it's like synchronicity. Things just kind of came together. And have you tapped into that? Have you kind of, because obviously, you got shook during your life. You got something happened that there's no way you could have foreseen. But now that you've got your life back, have you managed to figure out that how you get things to connect again? And I don't know, is it intuition or what's that magic sauce of where things kind of just line up and connect?
I'm on a journey now of breath work. And it's not really breath work as we know about breath work. It's more about breathing the way that is most beneficial to their body. And I find that that's given me the biggest shifts, or things are happening more. They're more in flow. Just like when I went to Germany and everything happened very synchronistically. But I feel like now things are really, really in flow.
So, I mean, you've got your services now that you're offering is like, say, the Wellfitch kind of coaching. What else is that your main business? Is the coaching?
Yes, that's our main business right now. I think eventually I'm gonna use also breath work, or I call it breath work because there's no other way to call it, but conscious breathing, and I'm gonna also work with that and I could talk about this for ages. There's somebody I follow since last year, and I've seen the biggest shifts in my life through the work we're doing. And it's something so, I'll just say it this way. We're under spells. Just like Snow White or what in Disney. We're under spells from our youth. And this is breaking the spell can shift your experience so quickly, just in the snap of fingers.
I think with the nutrition and the breath work, because I have seen, I mean, I've been at a lot of events with different facilitators and got incredible feelings from breath work. And even practice it myself, and I think time slows down, but I think you can really heal yourself through breath work as well, because I have seen people, the trauma comes up, and I don't even think you have to go to heavy breath work, because sometimes people are like, it's like hyperventilating. But I've had guests on as well that just talk about doing it gently, but be conscious breathing, and that you're deep breathing instead of just shallow. Because I always say, even people, they think that smoking keeps them stress free, and I said, do you ever just pretend you have a cigarette and go?
Yeah,
they don't, and it's so they're actually, that's what's helping them is the breath work. Unfortunately, if it was like just maybe tobacco, it wouldn't be too bad, but there's like thousands of chemicals that's going into their body, and that's why it's not so great. But if they just even realize it's the breath work that's actually getting known. So I think what you're doing is combining the nutrition and the breath work. You can, I think, heal a load of wounds with both of them.
Yeah, I think it heal probably most wounds. And of course, I'm happy to found this, but it doesn't surprise me because I'm somebody who totally lost everything I lost. And so the only way to go from there is straight up.
Thoroughly enjoyed your story. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to mention?
Just briefly and I'm sure most people that are listening to you probably know or are aware of this already, but meat is not the devil that we've been told it is. Meat is actually the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. So there's no need to be afraid of meat. And it doesn't cause heart disease. It doesn't. What I would say is, one caveat is, when you're eating meat, I wouldn't mix it with carbs. I would eat, because that impedes your digestion. That's part of the problem.
And because I eat, like, I love duck and red meat and steaks and stuff like that, and it works for me. I know how I feel good from it. But I know a few people that were vegetarian and they got very ill and they switched back and they were grand again. So I know a lot of people like that. I mean, sometimes it works for people. You see people, you kind of have to, like we said earlier, feel in touch with yourself, how it reacts. But the same thing, they push it and they want you to eat bugs and stuff like that, saying that that's healthier. And it's all parasites, so remember about that. We have to stay away from the parasites.
Yeah. And so you can make it work. You can make vegetarianism work, but it's very hard. And you have to supplement very carefully.
And this, I suppose it's worth just mentioning that they say you have to supplement it, but that's even the pills have been infiltrated, and it's very hard to get good pills as well. So sometimes people, they're taking the pill and it's actually doing more damage. And even with the soy and everything, like that's all estrogen. So sometimes people are giving their kids, these soy foods and stuff like that. And it's like I use an app, and the app tells me all the badness that's in stuff. And, I have warnings of things I want to stay away from, like aspartame, MSG and things like that. And it's a case of just slowly doing it, because when you don't overwhelm yourself, you're more inclined to actually complete it. And then you know that, okay, next week I'm living healthier than I was last week. And by the end of the year, so we're coming into the new year soon, it's like, yeah, make this a pet project for the whole house. It's like, all right, let's get the right toothpaste, let's get the right, beef, let's just source different things. And it's when you do it slowly, I think it makes make a difference. But look, Maria, I love what you're doing. I think you're on the right track with incorporating the breath work into it, just because what I've experienced and seen. So, listen, thoroughly enjoyed it. You might let the listeners know where they can find you.
The best ways to find me is on my website, which is genuinelymaria.com. And you can book a complimentary discovery call if you like. I'm also on social media, but I don't add there very often because I have a bit of an allergy to it. So please go to my website.
No, I'll make sure I put all the links to the audio and the video. And just for those that are watching on BitChute, YouTube and Rumble, you can see our website on after her name, so you can do it. But I'll make sure I put the links in the show. Thank you very much, Maria.
This is fun. Thank you.
No problem. So that's all for the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. Find everything about me. Scan the QR code. Go to rereading.com. It's mentioned at the start of 2 school groups, one on podcasting, one on brain fitness. And if you're looking for virtual assistants, go to va.world. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, especially this, because nutrition, very important, as you have heard today. Until next week, take care.